Hello and welcome back to The Distressed Princess. I'm Rhonda. In today's video, I'm going to take you on a little thrift store shopping. I'm going to show you what I picked out for home decorations in my very own house for fall this year. And also, we're going to do some fall DIYs, so stay tuned. And also at the end of the video, I'm going to show you some real money-making tips when you're thrifting, so stay to the end to see what they are. It really helps if you're wanting to achieve a certain look to know what it is exactly that you're looking for before you even step foot inside of a thrift store. So I'm using this idea board as a premise of what I'm looking for, which are some brass pieces, some art pieces with the warm tones and maybe some green in it. I need to find some things with texture like some baskets, and some things that would be white to bring everything together. My favorite place to begin my hunt is the Goodwill store. And here is where I found my art piece, and it had green, it had a good wooden frame. It was a large size and it was a steal at $9.99. So I had to put it in the cart with me. Next up is the furniture section of the store, and I found this little side table that is quite beaten and banged up, but for $6 and some change, I couldn't just leave it there. I had to take that tag off, and I'm gonna bring it home and I'm gonna bring it back to life somehow. I want to point out that just because you're in a Goodwill store or a thrift store, you don't necessarily have to be looking for all old vintage items. Like this glass jar originally came from TJ Maxx. Its TJ Maxx sticker is still on it, but it matches my scheme, so it's going home with me. Then I spotted this white pitcher, and if it wasn't the cutest pie of the cutie pies, it had the bluish green flowers on it. It had on one side a small flower and on the other side a group of bigger flowers, and for some reason I think I kind of like just the small side showing the small flower. So anyway, that goes in my cart. I think it matches perfectly with the picture that's already in there. Things are coming together. The Goodwill store was very good to me, so I hope my luck continues at this second thrift store today. I felt that the prices were kind of high at this thrift store, but I did find a clearance corner, so I looked around for some items that I might find cheaper. And lo and behold, I did find a very large brass candlestick on the top shelf in the clearance corner. And I count myself so lucky to find a large brass piece. I thought I would be lucky enough if I found just some small candlesticks. So to find this big giant piece for $5 slashed down to $2.50, that was just great in my book. Over on this shelf, not in the clearance corner, but still decently priced, were all these smaller brass pieces. I felt so lucky. This is exactly this kind of stuff that I had in mind, right down to the brass swan and duck that I wanted to go with my fall decorations this year, because if you didn't know, these brass pieces are really hot. If you don't believe me, here are some screenshots of some brass decorations from Crate & Barrel, and take a look at their prices. So here are all the brass pieces I collected from my thrift store shopping, and you can tell that some of them are a little more tarnished than others, and I actually prefer the more tarnished look. So I searched up on Google how to age newer brass, and this is what I came up with. You're first supposed to clean the brass pieces using acetone, and this is the only acetone that I had in my house. It's this gel nail polish soak off stuff, but it is 100% acetone. And the reason for this is because some brass pieces will have a lacquer sealing the brass in so they don't tarnish. So you're going to have to remove that if you do want them to tarnish. So not knowing if they have that or not, it's best to clean all of them very well with the acetone first. And as I was cleaning the large brass candlestick, I had a feeling that it might not actually be brass. It didn't feel quite like the others, so I was scared that it might not tarnish at all. Next, you'll need to gather these three things: some sort of container with a lid, you'll need some white vinegar, and some regular table salt. You're supposed to pour just a little bit of vinegar into the bottom of your container, which I had to use a very large bowl because I'm going to try to tarnish all of these pieces at the same time. So if you only have one piece to do, find the appropriate fitting bowl, I would say. But just about covering the bottom of whatever container you're using, that's how much vinegar. Then you'll use a good size, I'd say teaspoonful of salt. Well, for again, here with my large container, that's how much I had to use, but you judge appropriately for your container. Then mix up your salt and vinegar until the salt is dissolved. Then add the brass to the container, and then when you get the lid on it, you're supposed to shake it up a little bit. So you don't want the vinegar mixture saturating your brass piece. It is really the fumes of the salt and vinegar that's supposed to do the tarnishing. So you just shake it up a little bit and then let it set. And every hour you're supposed to shake it up some more, and you can let it go for 6 hours. That's what I saw on Google. But if you see that it is the amount of tarnishing that you want earlier than that, then by all means, take them out, wash them off, and you're done. As for the big brass guy, he wasn't going to fit in any container that I had, so I was going to have to do him separately, and that gives me a chance to try out another technique that I read about on Google, where you mix up the same salt and vinegar concoction in a cup or some sort of container, and you paint it on your brass piece, and then you apply heat. And they may have used a heat gun. I couldn't tell in the video if it was a heat gun or just a hair dryer. Mind you, my hair dryer that I use to dry my paints gets really super hot. So I was crossing fingers hoping that this method would work using my hair dryer. And also remember, I am not even sure if this is actually a brass piece or not. So you'll see what happens when I try this. So I didn't really see that it was producing any tarnish at all, and I began to wonder if this was truly a brass piece or not. And then I noticed that there is a place where you could unscrew it into two pieces. So I did that, and when I tapped on the two different pieces, I could tell the bottom part was plastic and the top part is metal. I still don't know if it's brass, but you can hear the difference. So in light of this new information, I decided to put the piece that would fit in my container inside. And I don't know how I'm going to match them up if that piece tarnishes and I still have the bottom that doesn't. And so this is what happened. I went to bed and forgot about them. So they sat out in this vinegar all night, and the next morning they were definitely tarnished. And even this piece that I wasn't sure was going to, absolutely tarnished. I realized that some of them may not have actually been brass. As you can tell, a color difference in a couple of these candlesticks. They kind of look like copper now, which doesn't bother me. I like copper too. So just a heads up, if you don't want them this tarnished, make sure not to forget about them and check on them about every hour. I still had the bottom part of that large candlestick, so I mixed up another batch of solution and threw it in to see if it would tarnish. And surprisingly, even though I thought it might be plastic, it actually did tarnish. And so when you're finished getting the desired effect that you want, then you take them over to the sink and rinse them all off. Now for my $6 table. I knew when I bought it that I did not want to paint it, which is usually my first instinct to do with some old furniture. But I thought that painting it might go to white, or even if I painted it a sage green, it just wouldn't be doing this little table any justice. I feel like it would have been taking away from its personality if I slapped any paint on it. So the first thing I decided to do was give it a really good cleaning, and I'm using this Goo Gone degreaser and my Scrub Daddy, and I'm gonna scrub it down real good and then see what we have to work with. After getting it really good and clean and dry, I was wanting to bring back its luster, and I had read somewhere that you could use olive oil to do that. So I used a microfiber cloth and I put some olive oil on the table, and let me tell you, that did the trick. That is a handy dandy little trick there. She turned out just shiny as she could be and brought her back to life. And here she is, all cleaned up, ready to decorate. So I added my picture. I'm just propping it up here for you to get the effect. And then the picture, which I will later add some fall florals to. Another little picture frame to balance the white on the other side that I already had on hand from an earlier thrift trip. And a basket on the bottom. The fall florals from the Dollar Tree. And here's just an idea of how the whole thing might look. And the sweater pumpkin that you see, stick around because I'm going to show you how I made it. And here's another way to style it with that large brass candlestick and with the picture actually hung on the wall. Today I'd like to share with you something really fun I've discovered, and it's called free prints. I like to take a lot of pictures. As a matter of fact, it's my job to take a lot of pictures. I do a lot of videoing with my phone. I take a lot of pictures with my phone. And so I really need the storage space so that I can continue my YouTube channel. So the important part of keeping your storage space cleared off on your phone is getting those photos off of your phone. And that's where free prints comes in. You can print the photos off of your phone. You get 85 free photos every single month, plus a lot of great offers that I'll tell you about later. And all you have to do is pay for shipping. Using the app is really simple. You start by selecting which photos you would like to be printed and delivered. And like I said, you get 85 free prints every single month. You can use all of them or you can just use part of them. The prints you get for free are the 4x6 size, but you can also opt to get other sizes. So I might get this one in an 8x10. So for this order, I have 21 4x6 free photo prints and one 8x10 for $3.19. So with the shipping, my total is only $7.74 for this order. The deals I wanted to tell you about are the freebies that you can get, like this photo blanket was offered when I signed up and all I had to do was pay for shipping. And there's also just a ton of really neat gifts that you can get using the Photo Prints app, right down to socks and personalized squishmallows. They also have available those really nice photo canvases that you can use to decorate your home or give as gifts. But just taking advantage of the free 4x6 prints every month is so well worth it. This is the first order that I received from Free Prints, and it was just really happy day to find this envelope in my mailbox, and I was so excited to find out how my pictures turned out. I was completely satisfied with the quality of these pictures, and I also want to mention that inside the app you have the option to crop your pictures so that you can make sure that nobody's ears or tails gets cut off. So I invite you to try Free Prints today. There will be a link in my description box down below, and if you use this promo code PrincessDIY15, you will get 15 free prints plus free shipping to get you started. That's a really sweet deal, and I know you're gonna love it. Back out on the antique hunt, I'm still looking for fall decorations or things that I can turn into fall decorations, really. And I ran across a booth that was 50% off, which, you know, those are the ones that you want to really hunt and look in. I loved these creamers that were sitting up here, but I have enough dishes, so I didn't really want to buy any more, although that would be really cute in a kitchen. And I came upon these pillar candle holders, and my vision for them would be to paint them up and set some large faux pumpkins on top of. And remember, 50% off, I got them both for $5.50. Back home, I cleaned them up and got them ready for painting. I did a couple of coats of Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint, but I didn't try to cover up every little nook and cranny. It was okay if it automatically looked a little distressed. You know I like that anyway. You could leave yours like that or paint them a whole nother color if you like, but I wanted to have white with a touch of gold, so I'm using some of the Rub and Buff in the color Antique Gold, and I'm going to apply that with a foam brush and trying just to hit those parts of the vase that are popped out so that it just makes the indentations look a little more detailed. And these are the pumpkins that I have to set on top of the pillar candle holders. I already had them from last year, but I really can't remember where they came from. I know they sell these at Michael's and Hobby Lobby. My original idea was to use these rub-on transfers that you get at the Dollar Tree, but obviously I was not going to have enough of them because I already had used a big chunk of those transfers. So on to plan B, which is to paint some little leafy designs on the pumpkin. And I'm telling you what, this was fun. This was therapeutic. It's not a hard design to do. Just watch and see how I do it. Just draw a squiggly line with the thinnest paintbrush you have, mind you. I started out with a thicker one and that wasn't doing me any favors. So start out with a thin, tiny paintbrush. Just draw a squiggly line and then make some little curlicues coming out the side and some tiny little leaves jutting out both sides, and just have fun. One tip of the trade I'll tell you is to use 2 different colors of green. Put both of the colors of green on your paintbrush so that you're using both colors at the same time. This gives a lot of detail to your painting and makes it more interesting. And if I do say so myself, I think that it turned out even cuter than if I would have had enough of those rub-on transfers to put all over. And here she is sitting atop one of the cute pillar candle holders that I painted white and gold. Now for another fall DIY, I have these ceramic pumpkins that originally came from the Dollar Tree, and I've used them before. As you can see, I've wrapped them with jute string, and I think their original stems was gold, and that would have been fine for what I'm decorating with this year, but I'm going with what I already have, and I already have those rub-on transfers, and it is enough to go on these 2 small pumpkins, and so that's exactly what I'm going to do, and it's going to match the larger one that I just painted the leaves on. Oh man, how stinking adorable. I hope to goodness that you guys have some of these transfers in your stash, or if you can find some somewhere at a Dollar Tree, because this DIY has to be done. This is so stinking cute. And what I decided to do was put these smaller pumpkins on the smaller candlesticks and use them as a grouping to go with my bigger pumpkins on the big pillar candle holders. And I think this makes an adorable fall grouping and for a very little cost. Yachty was a big fan of the pumpkins. He liked those a lot. When you're thrifting for fall decorations, don't forget to check out the clothing department and look for these cable knit sweaters because you can make the cutest things with those. The easiest thing to use them for is to make a fabric pumpkin. And because it's a sweater and it already has a sleeve, that's the easiest part to use. You'll also need some cotton to stuff your pumpkin with. There's probably a jillion ways to do this, but I thought the easiest way would be just to go ahead and stuff that cotton into the sleeve of the sweater and kind of determine how much of that sleeve I was going to need to cut off to make my pumpkin. you'll have something that looks like this, and both ends are still open at this point. So I decided to tuck in the bottom end, which would have been the end of the sleeve, the ribbed end. I'm going to tuck it in, and then I'm going to use a bunch of hot glue to seal it all shut. Then on the top loose end, I'm going to bunch that all together and use some twine to tie it shut. I double knotted it, but then I did not cut the twine because I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping that twine around, making the little ridges that go in a pumpkin. So I hope you can tell and see what I'm doing. I'm just wrapping down and around the bottom, back up to the top, and then I go around the stem and go the other direction. When you're finished making the little sections, then pull it all tight to the top of the stem and tie a double knot to hold it secure. I hunted around my house to find something to make a stem with, and I found these little shims. I think that's what they are anyway. Any little pieces of wood that you can find that can stick out the top, even if it's a stick out in the yard, that would be fine. But I'm using this little piece of wood that I found, and I'm going to wrap it in jute string and secure it with hot glue and hot glue it to the top of the pumpkin. Notice I still hadn't cut the original twine that I made the ridges with. That's because I knew that I wanted to add one of these leaves that you can get at the Dollar Tree, and I still had my twine to tie it on with. Then I cut all my loose pieces of twine and fluffed it up a little bit, and it made a darling little cable knit sweater pumpkin. Now don't forget this little jar that I found at Goodwill for only $2. It doesn't need any DIYing, it just needs to have a good function. And so I decided to use it to hold my wax for my wax burner. Back at the junk store, all this galvanized metal caught my attention. Oh my goodness, this is very fall. This is every day of the year, not just fall. Love this stuff. But it's not exactly what I was going for decorations on the inside of my house until I spotted this lantern sitting on the floor. I'm not certain if it is really an old antique or if it's a newer reproduction, but I loved it regardless, and so I brought it home. It was only $12, and this is a nice large piece. And I tell you, I almost hated to clean that dirt off of it because I kind of liked it dusty looking. But I cleaned it up, and you have a couple options. You can put a Dollar Tree LED candle in a lantern like this, but I decided that I might actually want a real true lit candle inside of it because it seems like it would have at one point had a real candle in it. So I went with a real little small pillar candle, and I love this lantern. I put my little brass swans with the lantern. I think they're adorable. I'm so happy that I found them. And as promised, here are the bonus thrifting tips for making money at the thrift store. You'll want to go to the section with the dishes and check this out. Here's a whole stack of these Valley Forge ironstone little bowls. You can check the stamp on the back, and you can go online and you can hunt these up and see what they're actually worth. And you can see here there's a whole stack of these and they're only $1.32 a piece. And on eBay right now, 3 of them are going for $23.74. Another example is this set of Crescent Saucers. They don't even have their teacups with them, but if you were looking to replace them and went on eBay, you'd be paying $8.99 a piece. My personal favorite dinnerware to collect is Limoges. You can always check the back of the piece and it will always say Limoges on the back. These pieces can easily go $10 a piece or more. There are literally hundreds of patterns, but I always go for the pink ones. I just look around for things that I think are pretty or interesting, and I came across this one. I liked it. I'm not familiar with the maker, but I am familiar with Homer Laughlin. I like his designs, and when I looked it up on replacements.com, which is where you go to find your replacement old dinnerware pieces, a dinner plate was $9.99, so I believe that a bowl of this size would be the same. And even if you weren't reselling these dishes for a profit, they sure are cute in a farmhouse kitchen. Thanks for joining me on my fall thrift hunt and DIYs. I hope you enjoyed it and got some ideas and inspiration. If you want to see more DIYs, click the link that I provided for you right here, and I'll see you next time. Bye!